Today I'm going to be comparing three amazing flashlights, the Nitecore EDC35, the Fenix PD36RV2, and the Olight Warrior Mini 3. What do they have in common? What differences do they have? And which one would be best for which scenario? Let's find out. Let's get into what makes these three lights different, starting with the LEDs. So the Olight Warrior Mini 3 and the Fenix PD36RV2, I would say have pretty similar LEDs, as the Olight doesn't really like to give indication of what LED emitters they use, but the PDR36V2 does have an SFT40 LED, which is pretty similar to that of Olight, so I would assume it has around the same one, as opposed to the EDC35 having the Night Lab UHI40 Max LED, which is that bright LED in the middle surrounded by 8 auxiliary LEDs around it, which gives it a rounder beam profile and a lot brighter look as well. Now, comparing the bezels of all three, starting with the PD36RV2, you can see that this has a tooth bezel, which doesn't give you that much of an option for striking, as opposed to these other two, where you have the Olight Warrior Mini 3 have a more spiky look to it that allows you to hit a weak corner of glass and be able to break it. And then with the EDC35, you still have some type of cornering going on where you can still, with excessive force, be able to break something in an emergency situation. Coming down to the middle of these lights, we're talking about side switches. The PD36RV2 has a side switch made out of brass. The Olight Warrior Mini 3 has a side switch made out of fully metal, while the EDC35 does not have a side switch. It's all up to preference if you want an EDC light that has a side switch. The only thing I don't like about the PD36RV2 is that the side switch is leveled with the body and could potentially be hard to find or reach, as opposed to the Olight Warrior Mini 3 has more of an indented, easier to the touch feel. Now the PD36RV2 and the Olight Warrior Mini 3 both have battery level indicators as soon as you turn on the lights. With the Warrior Mini 3, it will consistently stay on as long as you're using it, and it will indicate either three colors, green, orange, or red, and will turn off as soon as you turn it off. And with the PD36RV2, it will show you and then disappear after 3 seconds. And this one has green constant, green flashing, red constant, and red flashing. And the EDC35 has these LED light indicators that shows you in green how much battery there is left. And to me, that is visually more appealing, as it lets me know right away what battery level I am at without having to guess colors or flashes. Now, when it comes to the knurling of these flashlights, what I look for is a strong grip. Right away, the PD36RV2 has a very slippery grip, which puts it dead last in that section. Now, between the EDC35 and the Warrior Mini 3, they both have very well knurling and strong grip, but in my opinion, the EDC35 takes the win in that category because it has thicker knurling, therefore making it better grip. And at the top, as far as dissipating that heat, you want separation between the body and the head with some cooling fins. The EDC35 displays that very well, with the Warrior Mini 3 having no separation and no indication of really strong cooling fins, therefore probably being the worst at dissipating heat. Now, all three of these lights have body clips, with the PD36RV2 and the Warrior Mini 3 having a bi-directional clip to be able to put this on your cap, backpack, strap, or anything really. And the EDC35 has a unidirectional clip, but it does have a 550 paracord that you can use to be able to deploy it from your pocket pretty quickly. So in my opinion, they all have their pros and cons. It's all up to preference, really. Now, one of the most important things is the fast charging, with the EDC35 and the PD36RV2 having USB-C recharging ports. This one has a boot right here that you open, and you can see the USB-C charging right there. And my favorite is the EDC35 with this rotary protection cover that when you twist, it unveils the USB-C charging port. With this rotary protection cover, it gives it extra dust and waterproof resistance. The Warrior Mini 3, on the other hand, is charged via an MCC cable by Olight along the magnetic base that also acts as a tilt switch. And that could be convenient if you've been using Olight consistently and you have many of those cables laying around. Otherwise, you're probably more likely to have USB-C cables laying around for emergency situations where you may need one or charge one of these. That leads me to the tail switch, one of the most important parts, of course. Right off the bat, I can already tell you I'm more inclined on the EDC35. I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, the PD36RV2 does have a very useful tail light switch, which allows you to quickly turn off and on the light, but that's pretty much all it does. You can't really do anything else other than turn it on and off, and to be able to switch the controls, you pretty much have to switch it, hold it like this to be able to switch the modes. Now, the Warrior Mini 3 has a two-stage nano-molded tech that has instant access to mid and turbo by half depressing the button to access mid-level and fully pressing to access turbo, and which you can also use to turn off and on the light. And it can also pretty much tail stand. The PD36RV2 can't, because the tail switch is sending out above the lanyard metal hinges right here. So for some reason it can't tail stand, and that is bothering me. But now the Nitecore EDC35 also has a tail light switch, in which that's all it has. So you're able to control everything with one hand. It's really a one-hand operable system in which you're able to turn on and off the light, but also depressing it halfway gives you access to search mode, which would be your spotlight, and then fully pressing gives you access to the lumen shield, which is your floodlight with the max lumen output of 5,000 lumens. And just like the Warrior Mini 3, it can also tail stand. Now, the way all three of these lock out are very distinctive. For example, the PD36RV2 does not have an electronic lockout, so you'd have to twist to be able to disconnect the battery from the circuitry to be able to mechanically lock this out. A lot of people actually prefer this method. Now, for the Warrior Mini 3, while it's off, you hold and press the side switch for 2 seconds until you see the moonlight mode flash, and now you are electronically locked out. So if I try to turn it on, you'll see that the red LED will turn on, indicating it's electronically locked out. Now, my personal favorite is the new EDC35, because for this one you do not have to memorize different modes to electronically lock it out. You don't have to mechanically lock it out either. It has a big front button right there that lets you know you are locked out. And not only that, it also has half lockout mode, in which the half lockout mode lets you access the lumen shield, which is your max lumen output, and your spotlight without turning on the daily mode. That way you are able to use it for tactical reasons and not have it accidentally turn on in your pocket. So I'd have to give that one to the EDC35, no doubt. And an awesome feature that the Warrior Mini 3 and EDC35 have is a proximity sensor function that the PD36RV2 doesn't. Now, the Olight Warrior Mini 3 is going to give you a pre-activated system proximity sensor where whenever it's on turbo, an obstruction will not dim the light, as you can see, but whenever it's off and there's an obstruction ahead and then you turn it on turbo, then it will dim the light. Now, the EDC35 has a proximity sensor as well, that with its new technology, it is more intuitive now more than ever than any other flashlight I've seen, where it only works on high, and if there's an obstruction, it quickly dims the light, but quickly returns back to the high mode. All right, on the screen, we have the brightness levels and runtimes for all three flashlights. Let's talk about the Warrior Mini 3. This one is catered more for everyday carry with lower lumen outputs than the other two lights, but pretty high runtimes for its size. You can store it anywhere and not make much space. So for an everyday type of use, these lumen outputs are perfectly fine. For the PD36RV2, it has similar lumen outputs to the Warrior Mini 3 with very similar runtimes and also with the strobe function. The thing about this one, it is a little bit taller and bigger than the Warrior Mini 3. And lastly, the EDC35, thanks to its 6,000 milliampere per hour 21700 battery, it does have really good runtimes for its lumen output, similar to the other two lights, but except this one has even higher lumen outputs if you want to have that extra power in your pocket. Now, the only thing about the EDC35, as many as you know, is that it has a built-in battery, and the Warrior Mini 3 and PD36RV2 have removable batteries. Finally, going over to the dimensions and resistance, the PD36RV2 is going to be 5.54 inches long. The Warrior Mini 3, as I said, more compact, 4.37 inches long, with the EDC35 being at 4.89 inches right in the middle. They're all pretty similar in weight, with the Warrior Mini 3 being the lightest. They're all IP68, meaning they're dustproof, and with their sealed aluminum alloy bodies, they're also fully water resistant, with both PD36RV2 and the EDC35 being 2 meters drop resistant and the Warrior Mini 3 being 1.5 meter drop resistant, not that far off in that end. And although the Warrior Mini 3 and PD36RV2 have strobe function to be able to use in emergency scenarios, the EDC35 has the lumen shield to be able to literally blind anyone with its 5,000 lumens. Or if you are in search of anything in a warehouse, using the search mode of 3,000 lumens is more than enough to be able to spot anything. When it comes to price, the EDC35 is a little bit cheaper than these both, but they're in the similar price range. Definitely depending on what you are doing, of course. If you're looking for a flashlight for periodic use and to impress your friends, definitely with the EDC35. But if you are definitely looking for something for more daily usage, more compact, probably the Warrior Mini 3 or something in between with the PD36RV2. What I like about the EDC35 is that it has the longest throw out of the three with 601 yards. The Warrior Mini 3 has a magnetic base, so you are able to put this anywhere magnetic on your car to be able to work on it. But when it comes to charging, I definitely am more of a fan of either the PD36RV2 or the EDC35 due to its USB-C charging ports. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the Olight line, but unless you already have a bunch of those proprietary MCC charging cables, then you'll probably have to buy a new one if the one you currently have breaks or something. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys liked it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.